Hey everyone, welcome to the Calibration Corner, the vidcast where we're going to talk to folks in and around agriculture. I'm Clint Chaffer.
I'm Brian Boak, and welcome to the Calibration Corner.
Hey, welcome back to the Calibration Corner. First off, I want to say thanks for watching. And if you like the video, be sure to like the video, and we ask you to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified each and every time that we post new content. So I think for this first episode, I think it would be nice to do a quick introduction and let the audience know who you are. So Brian, how about you start this off?
Name's Brian Boak. Grew up in Northwest Illinois. Probably not the part of Illinois everybody thinks of and farms in. We had corn, soybeans, cattle, hogs growing up. Went to community college in Iowa. Got a degree in farm management. Came back home to the farm and started a seed business. Sold seed for about 12 years. Did some crop consulting, soil sampling, kind of built up that way. And currently, I'm an agronomist on an operation, and I'm active in my family farm too.
Yeah, so you've done a lot of different things. From coming out of college there, and I think also, just being active on the farm and really farming your own acres too, right?
Yeah, yep. So we're, like I say, probably some tougher soils, Illinois, sand, irrigation, and then river bottoms, which I think you can relate to pretty well there on the last one.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, for myself, we also farm in the same area that Brian farms, actually just a couple miles away from each other. So grew up next to each other there. We've basically do corn, soybeans. We had cattle up until 2002, ran off to college, came back, and I jumped into software for ag software, and then went over to precision ag, and then doing auto steering and things of that nature. And now I've landed in the seed side of the business, really focused around soybeans. So still help mom and dad on the farm, but don't none of my own acres or anything. Hey, with us today, we're really excited to bring Jason Danner onto the show. Jason is a good friend of Brian and I's and runs Danner Excavating. Jason, how about you introduce yourself to the audience?
My name's Jason Danner, and I'm in Western Illinois out here in Aledo. I run an excavation and tiling business. I'm originally from the state of Virginia. I went to college at Iowa State. That's how I wound up in the Midwest. And I met my wife, Kate, and that's how I ended up back here in Illinois. So,
well, that's great, Jason. And I want to say, thank you for joining the show.
Yeah,
first off,
appreciate it. First guest.
Yeah, first guest. Yeah. So a lot of pressure on you here.
Yeah,
for real.
When you came back to Western Illinois, how did you get started in excavating, tiling, everything you do?
I have an agronomy degree from Iowa State, so I actually came to Illinois working fertilizer and retail. While I was in school at Iowa State, I worked for a local farmer who had some excavating equipment, and I always really enjoyed it. Got a little bit of dirt work in my background from back home, and I kind of took to it real well, and I really, really enjoyed it. And when I worked fertilizer and retail, I started in 2012 with a side business of excavating, and we did a lot of land clearing and tree removal, like culverts and pond installation. Nothing really big, just kind of on the side evenings, when we had time. Yep. And it just kind of, I started evolving that into something more like that I wanted to do instead of working for somebody else. And in 2015, I took it full time, and it was a huge jump for me because financially it went from you're getting paid every 2 weeks, and now you're getting paid when you get a job done. And then you had to promote your business. You had to, you just had to do everything. You had to do the financial stuff. You got to do the accounting. I mean, it's a headache to a degree, but it's also very, very rewarding. And I like that. And I like that I can have my own schedule.
So you've been doing this now for what you said, 5 years, full time. I mean,
full time. Yep.
And you've really expanded out into, a lot of different jobs. I mean, I know you've sent us different videos and pictures at different times. And, you went from
Snapchat.
But you're doing clearing, you're doing tile work, you're doing, it looks like you've been even doing some dirt leveling and things of that nature for different areas.
You working on a ball field now? Is that right? Is that kind of?
We did the mass dirt work, so just basically getting a ball diamond, it was trees. Basically, just took the trees off and then got the field within grade, so that then it can be seeded and everybody else can do all the fine work, hand work, and then like build the infield and stuff. So we did all the mass excavation work on that, which is pretty neat because it's right here in Aledo, and it was for the city of Aledo and the Park District. So it's really, to me, it fills me, it fills me up knowing that I get to work for my hometown now, and things will be there, for forever and ever, hopefully.
Yep.
So if we built it right. And then I actually just got done with the city of Aledo, or almost done. We got a little bit more work to do, which the weather's been awesome this year for us here in December late. It's since I've gotten started, this has been the best year we've had this late in the year. So been very fortunate and blessed there, but we're finishing up on a retention pond project for the industrial park in Aledo, which is a bunch of, dirt work, getting water slowed down so it doesn't, erode or cut. That's kind of, that's just come, secondhand. I got into tiling with a business partner who's a little bit older than me, that's very knowledgeable in the tiling side of things. And he's taught me a lot about how to manage and control water. And then I've kind of taken on to that with the software and stuff that we've been able to purchase and use for the tiling side of things. And it's just, I like to tell people now that, I can control water when it's almost on the verge of not being controlled. So,
you mentioned there, Jason, on just like on the software piece and getting into some of that. And I know there's a lot of technology that is around the tiling business, right? And I've also seen, again, back to some of your pictures and videos, it looks like you use a pretty wide gambit of different pieces of technology, whether it's lasers or whether it's GPS. How about you give us a little insight into what is that technology that you do use?
Well, for the dirt work side of things, on the dozers and stuff, we'll use just a regular laser. We haven't integrated with GPS. I mean, that stuff's it's crazy expensive. But on the tiling side of things, we're talking about 10th of grade. We're talking about stuff that's so flat. To me, the GPS was worth it because it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. And then it's from an efficiency standpoint. I mean, there's no hard point surveying that you would have to do. You don't have to go out with your grade rod and your laser and say, well, this is height here, and then this is a height there. And now you got to do math and do all that. The GPS technology, we're running Trimble, and then we run an FMX display on the plow. And then I can take that and then I can put it into my survey rig to survey stuff too. So Trimble's what we're using. I've got my own base station that I set out in the field with me, and it, triangulates or whatever. And we get it narrowed down, and we're using that for our correction. And it's very, very, very accurate. And it would surprise it when I tell people, it surprises them, how accurate the GPS is. So it's come a long ways. There's still people that are still running laser on the tiling side of things, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just we went with the GPS because I think it's a little less cumbersome, I suppose.
Like if somebody's going to call you, if I call you and say, hey, Jason, I got this field. I got some drainage issues. I got some drainage issues. I'm wanting you to maybe take care of it. What's your process for starting there? Like, how do you go about trying to lay a field out to start to figure out what size of tile you need, what the runs are going to be?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I'm going to meet with you probably at the field. You're going to show me what your problems are, whether it's wet holes or you say, hey, man, I want this gridded. I want to grid it. I got to get going on this. And I'll usually start by surveying that with my survey rig, which is just a little rig with a globe on it and an antenna. And we'll build a boundary and then record the interior of that. And what I'm basically doing at that point is building a topography map. I can also use a map from another. It's got to be RTK. Like if you plant RTK with your planter, I can take that and plug it into my software here at home.
Yep.
And have a token. And then from there, Uh, grade, and drainage area, and I can get the drainage area from, soil and water up here. The guys in Aledo for in any county, really, they can give me how much, drainage is coming into that. And that'll allow me to size pipe accordingly. Certain footage, certain size tile is only really required so many feet, and then you have to upsize. And so I've got books and little cheat sheets and stuff like that help me size pipe accordingly, more or less. So, and then if we're going to run dry dams or something and run surface water into it, it's usually just a rule of thumb. We'll go ahead and double. Like if you were wanting a 4-inch pipe, just to say 4-inch lateral or something, and we're going to put a dry dam on it, we'll probably bump that up to a 5 or maybe even a 6, just so that we can handle the surface water and we're not cutting anything off. So
how much more water does a 5-inch pipe carry than a 4-inch pipe?
So usually it's about double. A 5 will carry.
Oh, wow.
A 5 would carry 2 4s. 6 will carry 2 5s. 8 will carry 2 6s, and so on. It's within like, I wouldn't say hundreds, but it's within a relative of, if you thought you needed 2 6s, it would be to tile in 1 8-inch.
Sure.
So
what's your
drainage area width?
Yep.
What's your typical distance between your laterals?
A lot of that will depend on what that farmer. So I work with the farmers. I'm not going to go in there and say, this is what you need. I don't know your farm like you do. You're going to tell me, hey, this is a wet, nasty field, or it's not terrible, but it could be better. And we'll take that and we'll use that information that they've provided us. Because once again, you're going to know more as farming the ground. You're going to know more about that than I am. I mean, I'm there for 2 weeks, after we get done with it. I can offer my opinions and insights and what I think is a good return. But a lot of that if you were to ask me and you were to say, I have no idea, I will probably look at a soil map and get the drainage characteristics and the coefficients on that. If it's a wet, nasty soil, we can go all the way down to 40s. Haven't really laid 20-foot centers very, very much, just maybe here and there, but we lay a lot of 60-foot centers for most of our patterns. And that's the tile guys and the people that we deal with. They say that's a really, really good return rate. So on your investment. So 60 seems to be a pretty popular one.
When you're going, does soil type play a difference in how deep it is or how far apart or any of those things, or maybe even surface layers, depth of soil?
Yeah. So in general, the rule of thumb that I've been taught is for every foot of depth in the ground is 10 foot of draw laterally. In most of our soils out here, like your Muscatoon and stuff like that, that's really good draining soil. It perks really well. The water rolls through it pretty good. If you were to tile 4 foot deep, you'll get 40 feet each way. So that's where the old 80-foot centers comes into play on that type of ground. Or anymore, the tighter the dirt, we're definitely going to tighten them up, because the water doesn't want to move laterally. It doesn't want to move down. So it's not going to move laterally very easy either. So we need to have that pipe where that water is. And with the way it rains, it seems like anymore, I get a lot of guys coming and say, hey man, I want this thing to flush like a toilet after rain. And it's like, well, we're going to bring them in. We're going to bring the tile up. So when I first got started in the tiling, it was 4.5 feet. Get it as deep as you can. Always have the depth. And I started realizing, kind of on my own also, is that's not always the best case, because it takes time for that water to get there. And especially, in a tougher dirt. So I'm not saying that it doesn't work, but I'm starting to realize that if we bring that, if we know we've got an issue with drainage, we will bring that tile up and we will bring the spacing together, and we're getting a whole lot better. I call it a drainage characteristic, or like a profile of it. Yep. Makes it more even as we're drawing that down. You got all the pipe kind of trying to be in the same profile in the dirt in the same horizon. And it's just, I feel like you get a better drainage out of that. And we would not be able to do that efficiently at all without the programs and the software and the GPS.
And I'm assuming some of that, like what you're talking, is potentially in some of these river bottom silty, the really fine clay particle soils maybe is an area where you got to move that up, maybe not be 4.5 foot deep. I mean, is that fair? Is that?
Yeah. It seems like with the GPS, we do end up laying a lot of low grade, on a 10th, which is for all intents and purposes almost flat.
And that 10th is 1 inch of fall
per 100.
Yep, per 100 feet. Yep.
So it's not very much, and we deal in tenths. It's more like 1.5 inches. So instead of 12 inches, it's 10 tenths in a foot. So, but no, the river bottoms, we're gonna tighten that up, bring the pipe up in that 3 foot, 3 to 3.5 feet. And I've laid stuff in some really, really tight stuff at 30 inches for a guy. So.
Wow. What would you say, just overall in all of it, whether it's tiling or the excavating side or any of that, what are some of your biggest challenges that you see? I would assume weather is probably one of the big ones, but what are some of those other challenges that you run into on these jobs?
Yeah, whether you're 100% right on that, I would say that's probably my biggest factor. Other challenges, just not necessarily all the time, but we deal with some areas that are flat, and it's just trying to build an efficient plan for a guy and keep the cost for them down. I'm not trying to go out there and put as much tile in your field as we can absolutely get. I want it to work for you, and I want you to call me back at the end of the day if you want another project. So trying to make it profitable for me and also for the farmer is probably one of the more challenging things that I try to deal with. Other than that, it's pretty plain and simple. We do get in some challenges with some fields that you're like, man, and the guy's like, I got to get this drain. It's like, we can't get there unless we spend this much money, whether we have to come in and dig a bench, because we can only plow 5.5 foot deep with our machine. So if we have to be 6 or 7 feet deep to get it through an area, we'll have to bring some excavating equipment in, dig down a bench to where we can grade through that. So those would be challenges that we run into, not fairly often in this part of the world, but we have run into them. So
it also seems like you got to be a pretty decent mechanic as well from just some of our other conversations. I mean, it's big equipment, right? So I mean, there are things that break and there's things that you need to change and work on and things of that nature.
Yeah. Especially, a new tiling machine, it's well over 500 grand. Some of them are up to 800,000 now, with all the bells and whistles on them. And when I got into tiling with Jeff, my business partner, he come to me and he says, well, what do you think about getting into tiling? And at that point in time, I was like, absolutely. I don't want anything to do with it. I said, I'm drinking coffee when you guys are out there busting your humps, and it's snowing and it's nasty. And there's no good time to tile unless you're tiling in the summertime. And that, off and on, we're trying to move that way to get some of this workload down and stuff. But when I got started, I said, I'm not gonna work for you, Jeff, but if I can talk to the bank, we can work something out and we'll buy a machine together. And so we did. We went with an older used machine, and like anything, it's been a good machine, but it is going to break down. And our machine's a German made machine, and parts are just kind of like, well, we got to get them over from the boat. And we've got a really good company that we bought the machine from. They service us. I mean, they're awesome. It's Northland Trenching, and we deal a lot with them, and they've been good guys. Very, very knowledgeable group of guys. So without them, we'd be probably lost.
I can only imagine. Like I said, those types of machines, I mean, they seem like they're fairly unique. It's not like a John Deere or Case IH tractor down the road, so.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part? What's your favorite thing that you do year in, year out?
I I like tiling. I like to watch the water run. The older I get, the more I enjoy running a bulldozer. I used to enjoy the excavator the most because it's get in there and hog it out and beat it up and tear it up. And the bulldozer part was kind of just like, and I wasn't necessarily good at it when I first got started. I kind of taught myself how to do everything. And the older I get, the better I get on a bulldozer. It's like it's the finished stamp. That's the product that you're going to get paid for. And so I really enjoy running the bulldozer and making it look as good as I can get when we're doing that. But tiling's probably the most fun for me though, because it's kind of balls to the wall when we're going. So it's hurry up and go and get on one and try to get paid.
Yeah, cash and checks I figured was going to be up there towards the top of the favorite part of the job.
Off the record, that's number one.
Especially around the tiling and the water work, I would assume like there's, certain environmental, thought processes that go into that with conservation and things of that nature. Do you see much changes coming down the road with the new administration coming in 2021? I mean, is there any big things that you think are going to affect your business?
The waters of the U.S., if it comes back into play, Trump kind of kiboshed it there for a little while and slowed us down. We've had some projects get canceled down south of here because of the waters of the U.S. And so people are just kind of in limbo on that, whether or not they should do something or not, because they don't want to, spend the money and then be like told, hey, you got to take that out. Or get fined even potentially. But if the new administration wants to get down to that level of restriction, then yes, it would be pretty detrimental to the tiling business. There are other parts in the world, even like Canada, you would have to get you have to have a drainage license, and then your equipment has to be able to lay grade within a certain spec to even get your license.
Okay.
Up there, if that were to happen, obviously I would go get my drainage license because I would want to continue doing what I'm doing. But if it ends up being that, then we'll do whatever we can to make it right and continue business. So the restrictions on our end they're kind of scary, but at the same time, I'm necessarily too worried about them at this point in time.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
What, from your standpoint, if you were telling, doesn't matter, farmer or business people, or maybe it's a kid about ready to get out of college and trying to figure out how to be on the farm, what do you think people should know that they don't know? And I guess I'll let you take that in whatever direction you want to, or multiple.
Accounting and taxes.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't want to badmouth the school system or anything, but it's, English and everything like that, they're all important subjects, but nobody really teaches you the drive that it takes to own your own business. And I think that if someone is saying, hey, I'd like to get back to the farm, and farming's tough right now, and we all know that, all three of us are farmers here too. Margins are tight and it's tough to come back to that. And I think that if you're looking into a business, I would start with the small things, and hopefully it will snowball for that individual, just like it did for me. I started with an excavator, and that's all I had because I knew I could do quite a bit of work with an excavator. And then I got a bulldozer, and then I ended up in tiling and truck and trailers. And so, just start small and be real particular with your work. You gotta have customers, and you gotta have those guys call you back. So be good to them and they'll be good to you is kind of what I try to do.
Yeah, I think knowing your cost of production is important in every line of business, and maybe one of the most underrated things that nobody really likes to talk about. I agree with you 100%.
Well, hey, Jason, I just want to say thanks a lot for being the first guest on the Calibration Corner with Bryan and I. So it's been an absolute pleasure, man. And I tell you what, I respect everything you've done with your business of growing this up. So thanks again for joining here.
Thanks, Jason.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Yep.
Well, Clint, it was good talking to Jason. Kind of as we wrap up there, what's your thoughts on it from your background, your standpoint? What do you think about the conversation?
Yeah, I tell you what, having that conversation with Jason was fantastic. If I look back on just some of his different comments, I think it's fascinating just the integration of technology in that excavating and tiling work,
Yep.
right? Everything from just all that grade control,
Yeah.
everything dealing with GPS and the software work that has to happen
For sure.
on the
For
front
sure.
side of
Yep.
it. Absolutely just fascinating to me. The other piece that I would say is just, he's an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
right? I mean, starting this business from scratch 5 years ago to really, he's one of the.
He's got a really thriving business
Yeah.
in the area. He does really well. Yep.
Absolutely. So how about yourself? What was your takeaways?
So I think a lot of water management. I think in ag, we as a whole don't probably give water enough credit. There's some companies I would say in this space that are doing a really nice job kind of bringing it to light. So it kind of changes everything. But one of my favorite things about tile is when we add it in places, we usually see more nutrients get into plants that we're applying. Where oxygen kind of controls everything in the soil, and tile really helps that out. Regulating pH and drainage. There's just a lot of good things there. Working with Jason, I like being able to call him and ask him questions, bounce things off of him, and he's got a degree in agronomy too from Iowa State.
Yep.
So it's really good to call, and sometimes maybe I'll ask him a question and he'll give me an answer, and he may call me back a week later and say, I thought about that, and well, I did it, and it's good to have those people around you.
No, absolutely. So, well, hey, with that, I just want to thank everybody for joining us here today. Be sure to comment, subscribe, ring the bell to get notified every time that we put out new content. And thanks for joining the Calibration Corner.
Thank you.